fuck, if my friends are doing fucked up shit, then yeah, I'm absolutely gonna put them on blast for it. That's not okay.
Coyote and I were really fucking at each other's throats, which we've made up for, by the way.
I'm hopelessly and helplessly in love with her.
We've been friends for 4 years! I've worked with you on things! I've been on your channel, you've been on mine! We have been in the freaking trenches for each other, Coyote!
Hey Carl, it was great going to see the hit movie Cats tonight with you.
Of course, Yodi. I loved it when the cats went meow and started doing cat stuff.
Yeah, well, I can make you go meow tonight if you know what I mean. I want to make you my litter box.
In the previous video, this furry really likes kids 6 months ago on August 5th, 2022, people were deeply upset with my criticizing of Coyote Lovely on the basis of his friendship with 2 known pedophiles. People were upset by this. Not even understandably so, they just went fucking insane. The backlash was hilariously intense, to say the least. This is what happens when you go after a sacred cow. In all that noise, there was at least one legitimate complaint, and I had to correct that later on in a follow-up video covering Zrcalo. The main one, of course, and the one that really was the only one that was legitimate at all, was that Coyote Lovely no longer lived with Zrcalo at the time that I had uploaded the video. In fact, Coyote Lovely hadn't lived with Zrcalo for entire months before I uploaded the video, so fair enough, I was completely wrong about that. That was news to me. However, the other complaint that people lodged against me was about Squeaky Blumiere, and how it was that I should take back my criticism because, after all, he did go on the live stream and denounce Blumiere. And in my Zrcalo video, I point out that he did in fact denounce Blumiere and even said that he would, in fact, look further into it and perhaps even call him out. Well, it's been over 6 months. He has not made a single video on that subject. Me giving him the benefit of the doubt to the point where I even bothered mentioning that he had denounced Bloom was really kind of a waste of my time. It was a mistake that a few people, in fact, even called me out on. However, I'm just sitting here laughing at the fact that my video, minus the Zrcalo and living situation bit, was more correct than I could have ever possibly imagined. And the people responsible for the resulting backlash were made to be fools to greater degrees than I ever could have possibly hoped for.
Oh god, big guy, you sure you can do that?
Oh, you know, baby, that I can do that to you any day. Now let's go to my bedroom.
As stated earlier, my first video was primarily focused on Coyote Lovely's association and friendship with Zrcalo and Squeaky Bloom, and how people who willingly associate with pedophiles are no better than pedophiles themselves. This apparently went completely over everybody's head. I don't see the difference between a pedophile banging a kid and a person nodding along and smiling to a pedophile banging a kid. Needless to say, Zrcalo and Bloom both like kids, and not in a good way. You'd think someone who's made numerous anti-pedo content would have realized how poor of a choice publicly befriending such people would be. When confronted with this, of course, he consistently defended them. He even did just that, talking to me on a live stream that he had guested on. Just listen to this lovely montage.
Well, when you look at the screenshots of, you know, those Discord DMs, I know that you saw them because you mentioned them. The Discord ones specifically, which were taken from, you know, Discord web client, which, you know, you can do that. If you look up at the tabs on the top, one of them is an online photo editor. So that kind of undercuts a lot of the validity of those screenshots. Like, I can't run with an argument that's based on that. The Twitter ones, I actually looked at the video that said, I think it was called, like, Irrefutable Proof, by whatever the fuck that dude's name was, I don't know. The problem I had with that particular video is that it took a lot of effort to seem like it was taken all in one take, but there were actually several jump cuts hidden. The problem that I had with it is that it didn't make a lot of sense, and then when it didn't make a lot of sense to put in those jump cuts. What exactly was he cutting out of the conversation? Because there were parts of it that weren't shown. From what I've observed living with Zrcalo, Zrcalo is definitely a character, but that's kind of the worst I would ever call them. They're a little peculiar, a little strange, but they're a character, and they honestly don't... I've never seen them like do anything overtly malicious to anybody or anything.
That was the night of August 5th, 2022, after I dropped my initial video on Coyote Lovely. In that moment, I was honestly really drunk and didn't exactly catch on to really exactly what was going on. But with what I know now, I'm unsure I would have caught it even if I had been sober at the time. But anyways, in this stream, my very first big question was about Bloom and what he knew about Bloom's very public degeneracy. He said this.
Well, I looked at the Kiwifarms thread. Those had been brought up fairly early on in our friendship. And after looking at a lot of the things that were posted, I saw some holes that I just decided this evidence seems flimsy. So when I looked at all of this, I was like, you know what? I'm not saying 100% that you're wrong, but I am saying that there is not enough evidence to say that you are right. And when there is enough evidence to say you're right, I would be more than happy to take him to task over that. But I can't rightly do it with what's presented. It's not enough. I had constantly told him that he needs to actually set the record straight with a lot of the accusations being thrown at him. Because based on what I had seen, like I told you, I didn't think it held water. And I told him, you can set the record straight. This is how you do it. It's that fucking easy. Why are you not doing that? Why are you just getting pushed around and essentially letting me and Zrcalo get pushed around with you? And eventually he just decided, pick up and leave, cut and run, and let me and Zrcalo catch the fallout for the rest of fucking eternity. And I wasn't okay with that. I don't know how Zrcalo feels about it. I personally wasn't okay with it, which is one of the reasons why I kind of just stopped talking to him, even though he tried to DM me in a couple places.
So he's saying it's a nothing burger. It's nothing worth looking into, nor worth calling out Bloom over. There were two issues, of course, with that statement I'd like to point out here. One, he later said he dropped Bloom as a friend over people discussing the allegations that Coyote himself said were not worth his time. How can the evidence be both a nothing burger, to the point that it's not even worth looking into, let alone bringing up, but yet also such a big deal that you should decide to permanently no longer be friends with the individual the allegations are about?
That doesn't make no sense.
Two, the second issue with his comment there is I had immediately, upon him saying it's not a big deal, introduced him to why I said what I said about his pal Squeaky Bloom in the first place. He seemed shocked and odd.
Yeah, this is a wow, okay, I'm gonna actually need to see, this is the kind of shit that I actually would look into, and I'm probably going to wind up looking into, you know, at a later date, just because right now I'm working on something, but after that I'll be totally free. So, this is, yeah, wow, Jesus Christ. Fuck, dude, what the fuck? Jesus. I think we have Bloom sorted at that point, right? Like, piece of shit, we can agree with that.
So there you go, awesome. He denounced Bloom publicly, I guess, and is gonna look into it. Just one problem, he's never made a single video about Bloom, literally ever. As I said earlier, it would appear to me that even when information on Bloom ceased to be a nothing burger, he still treated it as such. It's been 6 months, actually going on 7, and nothing. Just flat out radio silence on the topic of Squeaky Bloom. Interesting. This is actually a big enough issue that even his buddy Lioman called him out on it near the end of February of this year.
I can't talk about Blumiere because I don't know everything about that clown either. All I know is this. If somebody in your circle has heavy accusations against them, in your circle, and Blumiere was, you have an obligation to yourself, if nobody else, to look into it.
So it's no wonder that after Lioman calls out Zrcalo on stream, that Coyote Lovely would comfort Zrcalo afterwards. Yes, really.
I couldn't do it as well as I wanted to, so I tried to have that call. And Zrcalo sidestepped everything I said. Sidestepped all that nonsense. Sidestepped talking about it. Sidestepped talking about what they'd done, why the farms thread existed, all of that. And it got to the point where all they did was make stupid little inside jokes, asinine statements, and what do? You defend them. And not only do you defend them, you go comfort them when I trigger them, and I'm not using that sarcastically, I mean that literally, and then you don't even look into it further.
And to be very clear, I talked to Lioman relatively recently, and he confirmed that Coyote did in fact do this. And also, I should add to that, that whenever he's called out about it in this call that I just clipped to you, Coyote doesn't bother denying it. So I guess that tells you everything you need to know. Now, with all that said, some of you may be thinking, well, he did go after Zrcalo, didn't he? And I mean, sure, I guess, but but there's a little bit more to it than that. There's a bit of an issue. Number one, I went after Zrcalo well before he did. My initial video about Coyote had an entire section dedicated to Zrcalo. That was in August of 2022. Coyote didn't actually make a video about Zrcalo until December that year, and it was a pretty sloppy video at that. The second reason why this, well, he did go after Zrcalo argument doesn't really work all that well is because, quite honestly, he was reluctant to even do that in the fucking first place. He got bullied into doing it, let's be honest here. He didn't really do it until it became really obvious that the optics of not doing so would be catastrophic. Even still, when he went on Kaz's stream to aid in the attack of Zrcalo, it was a pretty weird vibe near everybody got from that stream, and interaction between Zrcalo and Coyote felt a bit like a lover's quarrel.
How long were you planning this, Struggs? How much of our friendship was a fucking lie? How long was I living under the same fucking roof as you, and you were lying to my face every time you said that you gave a shit about me?
You inspired me. I said that.
Bullshit. Fuck you. That was not your motive. You know it as well as I do. You can lie to a lot of fucking people, but you cannot lie to me anymore. You know that now.
It's fucking weird, right? Before I cut to the next chapter, you need to understand Coyote's little social circle online. See, Coyote is gay, and no, I'm not saying that to mock him in any way whatsoever, by the way. Just saying that to point out that Zrcalo, Coyote, and Bloom were all buddies online, and whenever I say were, it's because even if it's true that they aren't friends any longer, it doesn't matter because Coyote's current boyfriend, Dia something, has publicly stated it was actually Zrcalo that hooked him up with Coyote at all in the first place. It's really just all coming together, isn't it? It's fascinating what things you can, how did that go again, Coyote?
It's the little things you can infer about a person when you connect a few dots.
Although I feel vindicated from all of these recent developments, that's nothing because there's one other member of this circle that doesn't get mentioned a whole hell of a lot. A person who in many ways puts both Zrcalo and Bloom's degeneracy to shame. This person would also become the happy receiver of Coyote's affections. No, not Dia, his boyfriend. No. It's none other than another former friend of Zrcalo's. One I've only lightly ever mentioned before, a pedo zoo that goes by the name of Connor. Or should I say, their birth name is Connor. They go by the internet name, however, of Hypnotist Sappho.
Lovely fuck zoos. He fucked Sappho and Zrcalo. Lovely fuck zoos.
On October 8, 2021, Coyote dropped his most popular video to date, Hypnotist Sappho is Worse Than You Think. This video garnered 250,000 views, and to anyone who watched it at the time, the video did an effective job of helping destroy Sappho's reputation, likely forever. People like me, who had never heard that name before, would now only associate that name with the information both Coyote and many others had provided, and understandably so. The evidence was and is quite compelling. The video ultimately resulted in him making 2 more videos on Sappho, both of them landing within the top 5 of his most watched videos. Although there were, of course, many others, as I suggested earlier, that did go after Sappho, and several with greater success than Coyote Lovely, it is also fair to say that Coyote Lovely was one of the loudest voices in the anti-Sappho crusade that ultimately became the pike in which Coyote would soon impale himself upon.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
It's about what's fair!
So what am I talking about? Well, the most recent of his Sappho trilogy was uploaded on September 30th, 2022. And literally the next day, on October 1st, 2022, what appears to be the start of a Gayop had begun. On the surface, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, everybody on the internet does that Gayop shit, so who cares, right? He's got a small team and is trying to garner information on a pedophile dog fucker. No biggie, you know? Wrong. Things start getting really weird pretty fast. On November 22nd, 2022, Kaz did a stream with Coyote where they discussed their grievances directly with Zrcalo, who was also on the stream. This is, of course, the very same stream stream I referenced and showed clips of previously. And in that stream, Sappho of all people arrives. I know, it's pretty weird. What's even more weird is upon look, Sappho is trans, alright? And I really don't care about whether or not I misgender a pedophile, so fuck off with all that gay shit. Anyways, upon Sappho's arrival, he joins on the Zrcalo Bashfest by giving his own unnecessary testimony that no one asked for on why Zrcalo is a shit person.
So I do have a comment on Struggs, actually. And I don't want to say anything super mean or whatever, but I thought that he was cool, but consistently throughout the entire time that I've spent around them, legitimately, you know, they're like a black hole. Like, everyone that gets close to them gets sucked into this endless fucking black hole of despair and ends up being used and spit up and chewed out.
Ignoring the irony of a pedo calling another pedo bad, this event was pretty weird. Why would Sappho effectively come to the aid of her most vocal enemies and not expect to be inevitably bullied off that stream? It was pretty strange. However, it only gets stranger as Coyote and her have their one and only interaction on that entire fucking 4-hour stream.
You asked about the band Coyote-Lovely, chat.
Yes.
So Coyote actually might have a little bit of insight on that. You know, I was really pissed. I was. And I forget what exactly happened. You know, I know that Coyote and I were really fucking at each other's throats and threatening each other and saying, you know, terrible shit, which we've made up for, by the way. But I was egged on by Zrcalo. Literally. Like, I was at my fucking breaking point, you know, suicidal, thinking about blowing my head off. And I was actually egged on into that. And Coyote has the logs on that because Zrcalo was literally telling them that that's what they were doing to me.
I also just want to clarify something real quick. I do remember what happened during the whole, before the help ban Coyote-Lovely thing. You posted a video that was labeled as an apology, which I commented in my video, you know, that recently came out, that the words
That's
"I'm sorry"
right.
didn't appear. And then I left a comment on the video saying this is going to be funny. You came into my DMs after you left a comment, sent me a screenshot of your comment. You and I had a back and forth where I was just kind of laughing at how angry you were getting about all of this. And then you started antagonizing me. I antagonized you back. It escalated. Then like an hour later, you wound up creating that channel. And then I kind of antagonized you about that after I saw that channel because I thought that was really funny. But and I also want to clarify, I wouldn't say that you and I have made up. We have talked on Telegram briefly, but for the most part, I've already told you that for the most part, the reason why I'm talking civilly about random subjects when you talk to me about it is because I just right now do not have the energy to get incredibly hostile with people that I have adversarial relationships with. And I've also clarified that your relationship as it stands now, I still find it predatory and I will not ever move away from that kind of position. I think dating a minor when you are an adult is a predatory thing and I do not agree with it. Now, I may be civil with you for the moment when you are talking to me about subjects that are just kind of neutral things. But like I said, that's just because of the circumstances and how focused I am right now on Zrcalo. That may change in the future.
Like, seriously, what the fuck was that? I talked to several people about this recently. Some sort of didn't catch on. All right, many of them actually didn't really even care about all that, while others came to the conclusion that I did. That entire interaction sounded like an old couple reminiscing about how the first time they ever met was so great and cool and grand and all that shit. Right before Coyote suddenly remembers, oh fuck, I forgot about optics, and says, we're not friends though. They're at the end, you know? And honestly, I don't know. I thought it was pretty strange, and literally no one on this stream or anyone watching has any clue that at this moment there's an alleged op going on when he blatantly says on stream that him and Sappho have been in communication. Shortly after this brief interaction between Sappho and Coyote-Lovely, Kaz rightfully and predictably bullies Sappho off the stream.
So why the fuck are you here?
I ended up in a fucking hospital,
Why the fuck are we
jackass.
here?
I almost blew my fucking head off. and
Maybe
went
you
to the
should have.
hospital.
After this, Coyote is actually the only one to even notice, or even point out for that matter, awkwardly I might add, that Sappho had left the call. And then, just going totally radio silent for a little over 5 minutes before abruptly leaving. Weird, right? Watch this clip I sped up for brevity, or at least the parts of it where he's completely silent, and I want you to stare at the screen, specifically at Coyote's avatar, and see how often it fucking lights up.
She left. Anyway, this has been fun, but I gotta get going. I got stuff I gotta take care of. I'm gonna leave on this final thought. Cass, send a lead shark maniac and SussyStruggs to the cast iron gates of hell and have them damned.
Woo!
Alright, see you later.
Okie dokie.
So what do you think he did? Oh, I know what I think he did. I think he was comforting Sappho during his silence and then leaves to, frankly, comfort her in VC. And before you try to claim that that's some kind of stretch, remember he already did that with Zrcalo once before and has been called out for it recently.
Coincidence? I think not!
There's also one last little thing I left out. He spent those 2 months flirting with Sappho the entire time. Now, I would show you screen caps of those flirtatious conversations, but he fucking nuked everything, and has given conflicting information as to whether or not he has the logs on them. In fact, Pizza, one of Kaz's mods, did an effective job of casting doubt on Coyote's claim that he just panic deleted everything in Kaz's Coyote stream on February 25th, 2023.
Another question that I have is, why didn't you export the chats before you nuked them?
Because at the time, and I will rephrase this so we don't start a fucking argument with the way that I word this, I believed that at that moment the op was now blown. I didn't know that it was blown beforehand, or at least didn't think about that. And I thought I had a limited amount of time to act before Sappho did something crazy, so I decided to nuke them without exporting.
Okay, here's where I'm going to prove that that's a lie. Okay?
I don't know how you could prove that, but go ahead.
Because the fucking screenshots on Kiwifarms. Here, I'll show you. Okay? You said, and I quote, I redact.dev'd my chats with Sappho because I didn't know how much time I actually had before Sappho put 2 and 2 together, and I realized that I was doing fucking work, and the last thing I want is some crazy motherfucker who literally put together an entire Telegram channel dedicated to ruining me having any kind of access to these chats.
Yeah,
okay?
Which is what I
So
literally said right now.
Yeah, my response to that is, Sappho tried to address, if Sappho tried to address anything out of context, you could have easily shared the full context due to, you know, also having the chat logs. It's convenient that you're suddenly afraid that everyone would believe Sappho over you, right? Now, the part that I'm going to prove is...
Now, hold on a minute. I actually do want to address that. Just because I've actually disproved the things you said before doesn't mean I could do it again. Like, I understand. No, I understand what you're saying, where I've disproven what she said by, like, posting the full context, but just because that has happened previously does not imply it will happen in the future. Different things can always occur.
Okay. Now, here's another quote. You said, I should have exported them first. That was a mistake not doing that, but I didn't know how much time that I had because Sappho has weird fucking hours, so I just did the safest thing that I fucking could at the time. Now, here's my response. This is where it's obviously a lie. The decision to nuke your chats was not an impromptu one. You weren't worried about how much time you had according to the screenshots of the DMs between you and Rodeo. According to the screenshots, you became aware that the op was compromised at 1952 hours. You then began conversing with Rodeo about why certain things had possibly occurred until 2016 hours, when you stated, I'm probably going to end up redact.deving my chats with Sappho soon. This implies that you are not in a hurry. The conversation continues. And at 20-25 hours, you state, I'm currently redact.deving my chat with Sappho. In other words, it took you 33 minutes to make the decision to nuke your chats after finding out that the op was compromised. It takes a few seconds to export a chat. On Discord, it takes longer to redact.deva chat than it does to export it. So you're a fucking liar, dude. You sat there and had to think about it. This is the evidence. This is evidence. This is factual evidence. You're a fucking liar.
Yeah, basically, it looks to me like he lied. I think he has the logs, and he probably thinks it's not within his best interest to show them, and he's probably right about that. However, since I don't have the logs, here's a screen cap of Coyote saying himself that he was doing just that on January 22nd, 2023. And as it says here, he's been doing that for over 2 months. And you know what? I can buy that completely. Given exactly 2 months prior to that very message was Kaz's stream on November 22nd that he did about Zrcalo that I just clipped to you earlier, and that I've mentioned probably like 3 fucking times now ad nauseum. However, this is to the extreme that he even tells someone that Sappho asked him to move in with him. Yeah. That flirting must have been pretty convincing there, buddy. Yeah, a little too convincing, it would seem. Fast forwarding to February of this year to the prior mentioned Kaz stream featuring Coyote Lovely, Coyote is sitting in the hot seat. And as the stream came to a close, there were more questions than answers. One, almost nobody knew. That's a pretty big question mark right there, right? The 3 people Coyote did tell, named Rodeo, Pizza, and Lioman, were only told in January this year. Rodeo was only told upon mentioning a former follower of Sappho's that later became a victim or something to that effect, thinking Coyote, who has a reputation for hating Sappho, would look into it. Pizza was only told after sending a screen cap to Coyote of a conversation he had with the Alex character Coyote started the op with in the first place. More on him later. And Lioman was only told after confronting Coyote on the very same screenshot. At no point did Coyote ever volunteer this information with anyone, and claims that he basically just soloed the entire op. Vash, Kaz's lead mod, even points out exactly what the problem with that is.
If you are going, quote, undercover, and you are going to kind of bed the enemy, I would have at least 2 people that I would be giving information every fucking day. Because if any suspect of me, flipping, that's my ass.
What was even the goal of this alleged op? Most of the information, as stated in the February stream, was already information that was known. Why would you require someone named Hypnotist Sappho to attempt to put you under hypnosis when literally everybody fucking knows she's a retarded weirdo that thinks hypnosis is anything other than pseudoscience that she uses to manipulate victims with? Everyone fucking knows that.
You talked about potentially feeding into Sappho's hypnotist fetish. Why was that?
Well, if you recall correctly, or if I recall correctly, I guess if everyone recalls, in the fucking video, the first one that I made, there was the logs where she had abused somebody who was under hypnosis. Mm-hmm. The reason why is because I wanted to see if I could get a recording of her attempting to do an induction. Granted, inductions only work if somebody is willing to be hypnotized to begin with, so essentially, since she wouldn't have any way to physically, fucking see me, it would be pretty simple just to record it and see exactly if that was true. I wanted to see if I could get a smoking gun on that particular allegation from when that video came out.
It's in her fucking internet name. It says hypnotist in the name. Look, the truth is that all these questions can be answered with a single sentence. There was no fucking Gayop. Yes, I know. I showcased that screen cap from October 1st, 2022, showing that there appears to be a start of a Gayop. Problem is, the expressed purpose of that DM group in that screen cap was to collect information from Sappho's server and to facilitate easier communication between those involved. The problem, however, is that the entire thing that Coyote claims was just a Gayop has absolutely nothing to do with that DM group whatsoever. In fact, I got the log for the first month of that entire DM group, and at no point is flirting with Sappho mentioned, and in fact, not only is that not mentioned, Coyote, in a long freaking list of goddamn screen caps, only says 2 things. That's it. The only thing he is referring to as just a Gayop is him flirting with Sappho. And why do I say that? Well, for 2 reasons. 1, the logs I just mentioned a second ago. It's really hard to claim that the DM group is his Gayop when he barely even was involved whatsoever. 2, the other reason he's clearly not referring to that DM group is, well, he flat out fucking said flirting with Sappho was a requirement for his op.
There has been an op ongoing against Sappho, which I have been doing privately. Alex is aware of it. That said, it's involved a lot of, unfortunately, I don't like it, but it had to do with a lot of flirting in order to gain Sappho's trust.
There's a lot more to that clip that I'll get to in a moment, but before we get to that, one thing we can say for sure is that in no uncertain terms, Coyote states that his flirting with Sappho was basically the entire Gayop. In fact, the flirting was so crucial that if Pizza hears about said flirting, says Coyote, that's of course just the op.
Letting you know that, so that you're in the know about all of that shit in case something comes out with me talking to Sappho. That's why.
And it would appear that Alex, the guy I said we'd get to later, is the only person that Coyote ever volunteered this information to. Coyote doesn't even say Alex is involved. He just says Alex is aware of it when talking to Pizza.
Alex is aware of it.
Hell, Coyote even specifies, once again in this same call, that he was doing this alleged op on his own, privately.
There has been an op ongoing against Sappho, which I have been doing privately.
The most interesting part of this is that he even gives somewhat of a date for when this entire thing began.
So before Cass's stream, Sappho tried to reach out to me to apologize, blah, 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 blah. I was not really receptive to that, but I did talk to her specifically just to see, you know, if there was any way that I could actually gain information.
This lines up pretty well with what we know already. The Zrcalo stream started in late November of 2022, as I said previously, and he admitted in that stream that him and Sappho had been in communication. Based on the current evidence, this suggests that his communications with Sappho began somewhere in late October to early November, which also falls in line with what he said in January about how he had been flirting with Sappho for over the last 2 months. Meaning, if we take all of this at face value, he has been flirting with Sappho from the time their communication started. Interesting, ain't it? To make things even more strange, if they weren't strange enough already, Coyote tells Alex of his plan to rehabilitate pedophiles on December 24th and further elaborates on January 11th of 2022 and 2023 respectively. Even states that he's talking to Sappho as part of his plan. This is the same idea that Alex regurgitates to Pizza that ultimately results in Coyote then saying the exact opposite to Pizza.
Yeah, that just concerned me because I can remember him pulling me, Hate Fault and you into a group, and Alex was really enthusiastic about, and knives out basically, like, Sappho and the zoo files be damned, and then now reading what he's saying, it's kind of like a 180. And if you remember, I was hesitant to trust him initially, and I'd left the group due to that.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, and like I said, Alex, for the most part, I disagree with the idea that Sappho is going to suddenly see a reason. I disagree with Alex's position. Vehemently so, mostly because of the shit that I've seen and dealt with over the past 2 years dealing with Sappho.
At the time of recording, all the prior mentioned facts are the most important and fleshed out bits of information that can be garnered from this situation, such as the Coyote's boyfriend, saying in late November that he'd been in talks with Sappho as well. What sort of talks? What did those conversations entail? Don't know. Why was a person named Monstrous mentioned by Alex in a reply to Coyote talking about reforming pedophiles? Was it an inside joke of some kind, or was this monstrous person involved somehow? Don't know. Is Coyote still talking to Sappho? Don't know. So with all we do know, what does all this mean? Well, what follows is my working theory, so put your tinfoil hats on because this one is gonna be a little spicy. In late October, shut up birds, fuck you. For this part of the video, I think it is crucially important that we have a more face-to-face conversation here. And of course, mind any sounds of gay-ass fucking birds or vehicles passing by. There's nothing I can really do about it. Though I have considered taking out the chainsaw and cutting the fucking tree down killing an entire fucking obnoxious family of birds. But genocide aside, I want to point out real quick that what I'm about to say is based on all the factual information that you have heard so far. And so how does that tinfoil theory go? Well, it goes exactly like this. Either in late October to early November, perhaps earlier, but we don't know that, Coyote Lovely had been in very flirtatious conversations with Sappho. And as to the involvement of Alex, the guy who started the op in October, we don't really know exactly the total extent of his involvement. We do know that he was informed about this from a screen cap in fucking December, but we don't know for sure if that was actually the first time he was told. Regardless, what we do know for a matter of fact is that both him and Coyote and Dia were all independently in communication with Sappho, which is pretty interesting. So with that said, what exactly did he do? Well, there was no real op to speak of. This op that Coyote is primarily referring to is really just him flirting with Sappho. So what we do know is these conversations, these flirtatious conversations, went on for entire months. Rodeo being the very first one to be informed. And I believe that Rodeo was only informed because he was criticizing Sappho, and there was a potential probability that if Coyote didn't look into the claims that Rodeo gave, that Rodeo himself might either recruit other people to look into Sappho on that subject, or might do it himself. And as a result of that, there is the probability in Coyote's mind, well, if they look too far into Sappho, they might uncover my love letters with Sappho. So, what did Coyote do? Well, you see, Rodeo apparently is kind of an idiot. So what he said to Rodeo was essentially, hey guy, I got it. I have this. I am flirting with her. There's a Gayop going on. And essentially a very soft way of saying, don't get in my way, right? So Coyote does that. All is good. All is fantastic. All is great. He can continue flirting with the pedophile. And later on, for some abstract reason, Pizza, who was in the DM group with Coyote for that monitoring Sappho server thing, got messages from Alex. Alex talking about rehabilitating pedophiles, which naturally, Pizza thought was absolutely fucking insane. So Pizza gets a hold of Coyote, messaging him about it. Coyote asks the VC, and in that VC, Coyote, of course, tells him the same bullshit that he told Rodeo. Because, after all, Pizza, he's kind of an idiot, right? So, what ended up happening was that Pizza bought it just like Rodeo bought it. The difference is, of course, is that Coyote could not admit in any way, shape, or form that he agreed with Alex's stance. And not just agreed with Alex's stance, but also was the one that was the genesis of Alex's stance by claiming that this was all some weird fucking mech ultra, whatever the fuck it's called, fucking op gay shit, scientific social experiment garbage crap. And the reason he didn't admit to any of that is because, well, they would look into him, and the object is to make sure that nobody looks into him or Sappho. And that worked for a little while, well, really just a few days, right up until Pizza sent a DM to Lioman with a screenshot of that conversation Pizza had with Alex. And as a result of that, what did Lioman do? Well, he contacted Coyote, and Coyote fed him the same bullshit he fucking told everybody else because, you know, after all, Lioman, he's kind of an idiot. And ignoring the fact that Lioman claims that he told Coyote that that was all fucking stupid, it doesn't matter because it would appear that Lioman just believed him and just thought, well, he was just doing a stupid thing. And as more and more people look into it, because more and more people are asking basic questions, they come to the realization that it really appears like Coyote is just lying to everybody about this op, so that whenever they hear shit like, oh my god, Coyote is flirting with a pedophile that we all know is a fucking pedophile, that they would be like, oh, well, he told us about this fucking op. And so it's not a big deal. It's just an op, guys. It's just an op. The reality is that Coyote just wanted that tranny D. That's all it fucking comes down to. And the real reason why all of this has come to the surface and all of these people think this, including myself thinks this, is primarily because all of the people that Coyote branded as an idiot were actually in fact smart enough to ask basic fucking questions that completely undermined the entire op that Coyote was running. And they did so gloriously in a fantastical fucking Kiwifarms thread that just fucking completely exploded in Coyote Lovely's shit-eating fucking face. Because at the end of the day, Coyote is kind of an idiot. I almost forgot. On November 26, Coyote Lovely made a twit longer where he was talking in immense detail about how he might be trans. You know what else he was doing on the 26th of November? You guessed it, he was talking to a trans person named Sappho. Draw whatever conclusion you want from that one.